So when people ask questions about your journey or where you are now, what they're really asking is, are you enlightened? That's what they're asking. You know, they want to know, what you speak of in terms of this possibility, have you realized it, right? That's what they ask a lot of people who teach, right? Have you realized it? Yeah. I am at where the most useful answer to that question is, I am at where you're at. That's the most useful answer. Because I could get into a whole lot of stuff about enlightenment and, and all these things that people get involved with in terms of thinking that somebody who says they're enlightened is some kind of spiritual saint or highly realized person. And, we have these historical figures like Ramana Maharshi and Nisargadatta. When you get involved in these practices and teachings, there is a history of gurus, people, because all these things originated from the East, and so there's this history of yogis and gurus and people who are highly realized, and and everybody knows about Osho and and all that jazz, right? And so one of the things that I'm very happy about is I think we're coming out of that. That stuff is just pulling stuff out of 2,600 years ago, pulling stuff out of ancient history and presenting it today, for people who are wearing the gowns and the turbans and using a lot of Sanskrit words and and all that, and have all of the symbolism, and all that stuff. And in a way, there's nothing wrong with that. It's kind of cool, the yin-yang symbol and a lot of these Sanskrit, and so there's nothing wrong with it. But the problem is it has people believe in mystical, magical stuff that's not very useful, because the reality that I'm speaking of and the contemporary teachers of this reality talk about it non-scientifically, non-religiously, non-spiritually, and talk about it simply as the truth, simply as the truth, simply as the way things actually are, simply as what you actually are, right? So that people can come into a real experience of being, and people can come into a real experience of living a life. The only way you're going to have a real experience of being and a real experience of living a life is if you experience what you actually really are. That's a real experience of being. And the only way you're going to be able to experience a human life is if you have some sense of what a life is. What does it mean to be alive? What is a human life? So when I say, the answer, am I enlightened or am I realized? The answer to that is I'm as realized as you are. Because the reality of it is, what these teachings are saying is that your experience of yourself in a natural way, if you're experiencing yourself naturally, you would be experiencing that what you are is awareness itself. If you're experiencing yourself naturally, you'd be experiencing that what you are is awareness itself, like the baby did. Like when you were a baby, that's what the baby was experiencing. Just being awareness. Didn't have a name, didn't have a personality, had no desires, wasn't comparing things, A baby doesn't drink their bottle and say, oh, that was all right, it wasn't good as the last one. Babies don't do that, right? So, because babies are relating in real time, they're relating in the present moment to what's happening. That's what they're doing. They're just relating and responding. Babies don't know about the past and the future, right? Babies don't know about the past and the future. They can't be anywhere but now, because they don't know that there's any other where to be. When they get language and they learn about the past and the future, then they can think they're somewhere else, right? When they learn about the past and future, they can think they're in the past, or they can think they're in the future, right? It turns the human life into, something that is a conceptual understanding instead of an experience, yeah. Well, babies have no goal because they're incapable of thinking. They don't have language, so they can't have any goal. All they can do is be related to what's happening. Once we have language, we can create goals. Why? Because once we have language, we can envision a future, right? We can imagine the future, right? So we can start to create goals. And the goals we create, it's interesting. The goals we create, what are the goals that people create? And why do they create the goals? What is it that they have it that they're going to get from the goals? If I achieve the goal, what am I going to get if I achieve the goal? Yeah. Yeah. Now you're getting into the game that people play called life, where they create goals, and the goals they create have to do with something that they're chasing. Human beings are chasing an experience, and the goals they create are related to what they're chasing. Right? Look at the goals that people create. The goals that people create has to do with money, yeah? Has to do with possessions, yeah? Has to do with desirable experiences, right? So the goals that people create have to do with money, possessions, and desirable experiences, things I want to experience, places I want to go, right? Relationships I want to have, right? That's all the game of life that people are playing, right? And what's the object of the game? Why do people want money? Why do people want possessions? Why do people want particular experiences? Yeah, to be happy, but they want it because they're in a condition. They want it because they're in a condition. The condition they're in could be called dissatisfaction. That's the condition that most people are in. It's called dissatisfaction. They're not satisfied. Why are they not satisfied? Right? Because they're living their life as a conceptual, they're living their life as a conceptual entity, right, that doesn't exist. That's why they're not satisfied. That's why the Buddhists say that most human beings are hungry ghosts, right? Why? Because a ghost isn't real, and most human beings aren't real. They're being a personality that only occurs in their head. Right? So they're being a conceptual, they have a self-concept, a self-image, right? And that self-concept and a self-image occurs in thought. It occurs in thought, right? I take myself to be this body, I take myself to be this personality, right? And as this personality, I experience a condition called dissatisfaction. It leaves me wanting, it leaves me desiring, it leaves me unfulfilled, it leaves me anxious, right? Concerned. Is this going to work out? You know, that's the concern that human beings are experiencing 24/7. Is this going to work out? You know, am I going to get there? Am I going to get there? What's the there, right? The there is, am I going to ever experience being able to relax and enjoy my life? Am I ever going to experience being able to relax and experience satisfaction? Satisfaction. You know, in a very high sect of Buddhism called Sogen, it's a very high teaching of Buddhism, right? The masters of that particular sect of Buddhism, the way they determine whether you're awake or not, you know, when they interact with you, is they ask, you may have been away from the teacher for a year, practicing and studying and so forth, and then you appear before the teacher, and the teacher wants to determine whether or not you're self-realized, you know, whether you're awake yet. And they only ask one question, are you satisfied? That's all. One question. And if the student understands the question, if the student understands the importance of being earnest, in other words, you don't try and play games with the teacher, right? If the student understands the importance of honesty, brutal honesty, and being earnest, they'll answer the question honestly. And if the answer is no, I'm not satisfied, then the teacher says, okay, come back next year. Why? Because satisfaction means that I don't need anything. Satisfaction means I'm not trying to go anywhere. I'm not trying to get anything, right? I don't need anything to be happy, because I've discovered when I experience the natural state, I've discovered when I experience what I actually really am, when I'm experiencing that, I don't need anything. I don't want anything. I'm satisfied, happy, and peaceful. That's the natural state. That's the state of experiencing what it's like to be what I am, what it's like to be the awareness itself. How can that be so, right? Well, the way that can be so is the awareness simply is fulfill. The awareness is complete. It's fulfill. Right? It's happy. Its happiness is a function of its existence. This is the secret. This is the secret of well-being. The secret of well-being is that happiness is a natural experience that is a function of the fact that you're grateful, and you're satisfied to be alive. So happiness, in terms of the natural state, in terms of the experience of your true nature, when you're experiencing your true nature as what you actually are, happiness is already happening by itself. It's spontaneous, it's natural. Because the happiness can't be, there's nothing in life, now here's the key, there's nothing in life that can provide more well-being than the experience of the miracle of existence itself. Huh? There's nothing in life that can provide more of an experience of fulfillment, well-being, happiness, peace, satisfaction, right? There's nothing that you can get in life, nothing you can possess. There's no amount of money you can get. There's nowhere you can go, right? There's nothing you can get in life that comes anywhere near the experience of being in existence itself, and this existence itself is a miracle. It's a miracle. Right now, the experience you're having of existing is a miracle. You don't know how it happened. You don't even know what it is. You don't even know what it is. You're experiencing that you exist, and you exist in a form of a body. You exist in the form of a personality. You exist in a situation called life, right? That you're sharing with 8 billion other people, right? That's what's happening, right? And the question is, do you identify so much with the limited version of yourself called a personality? Do you identify with the limited version of yourself called a physical body? Do you identify yourself only that way? If you identify yourself only that way, now you're in a experience of lacking. When you experience yourself only that way, which is the condition that almost all of humanity experiences, right? As a baby, you get language, then you're told this is your name, that's your body. You know, now you're a separate self, you're a personality, and you're going to live in this world, and here are the rules, right, that we play by here, and this is the game we're playing. The game we're playing here is to be happy, because you're not happy. That's actually communicated to the child. You know, pursuing happiness is the game. And the reason that's the game is because we're not happy, right? So your whole life gets set up to win the game, to get the money to win the game, you know. And so as life happens, as the years pass, right, you keep chasing the next thing because whatever it was that you thought it was that you got wasn't it. Yeah, so when you're a kid, you know, when you're a little kid, being a big kid looks like that's going to be it. When you're a big kid, being a teenager looks like that's going to be it. When you're a teenager, it looks like an adult, that's going to be it. When you're an adult, it looks like when you get married, that's going to be it. When you get married, it looks like having kids, that's going to be it. When you have kids, that wasn't it. Now it's like getting rid of the kids. That's, you know, that's going to be it, right? And then finally, after none of that works, right? None of that works. And you have little periods of gratification that we call happiness. You have periods of that, you know, and we put those aside. We file those in our mind so we can compare everything else to those experiences, right? Is this Christmas as good as last Christmas? Is today as good as yesterday? Will tomorrow be better than today? This is the thought process, right? Comparing all the time, right? Was the sex with this person as good as the picture I have in my head that I saved, which was the best sex I ever had? Like that. That's what we're doing that's what the mind's doing all the time. It's judging and evaluating and comparing all the time. That's how it exists in the world. Judge, evaluate, and compare. Right? Am I as good as the next person? Am I as pretty as the next woman? You know? Am I as handsome as the next guy? Am I as smart as other people? Right? And so I got to play this game. I got to get into MIT. If I get into MIT, then nobody will question how smart I am, you know? If I can appear on a men's fashion magazine cover, nobody can question whether I'm handsome, right? So that's the way we play, you know. If I can get a house that's worth millions of dollars, nobody can question my success because I got evidence, I got proof, I got papers, you know what I mean? I got papers. So this is the game we're playing, and it's a game that can't be won. This is the important thing to understand. You cannot win this game. You can't win this game, no matter what you get, no matter how many successes you have, no matter how many degrees you get, no matter how much money you get, you cannot win this game. People who are billionaires are still dissatisfied. Yeah? People who have been in and out of relationship 2, 3, 4 times are still dissatisfied. People who have done everything to look good and be beautiful and be accepted as an attractive human being are still dissatisfied because now when they look in the mirror, they're terrified of what's coming, right? Because that beauty ain't going to be around very long, right? Then what, you know? So this is the unfulfilled existence that most people are experiencing, right? So in this teaching and in these practices, what we're saying is, you can sit still and be quiet, and you can practice moving your attention away from that corrupt reality called thinking. You can start your practice moving your attention away from that and begin to experience something that's always been here unrecognized. By moving your attention away from the thought activity and relaxing the body and being still and silent, you can expose yourself to reality. You can be aware of something that's been unrecognized. It's been there all along. Not only has it been there all along, but you have been it all along. You have been what you are all along. You know, when teachers talk about this business of your journey, you know, your journey, right? It's like the only way to talk about that realistically is to say, in my journey, you know, I traveled through my life over time, experiencing different ages, different situations, right? I experienced different ages, different situations, different relationships, different levels of income, different levels of security, and all the rest of it, you know? I experienced all those things. And while I was experiencing all those things, I was preoccupied with being my personality. Everybody else is being a personality. That seems like the thing to do, right? I was preoccupied with being my personality and being my physical body, you know, playing the game of life, right? But I never had an opportunity, because of how preoccupied I was, to stop and slow down and look and see what is here. What is here? What is this that is looking through these eyes? As St. Francis of Assisi said, you know, what you're looking for is what's looking. So that's a hint, right? And the hint that it is don't look for it, allow yourself to experience being it. If you experience being it, you will realize there's nothing to look for because you've already found it. There's nothing to look for because you're already there. You never left home. It's like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Remember in the last scene? You know, when she asked the good witch, you know, what am I going to do? The balloon's left. The guy's left. I'm left alone here, right? What did the good witch say?
You're always here or something.
And she said, just click your heels and say, there's no place like home, right? And when she clicked her heels and said, there's no place like home, she woke up and she was home. That's a very profound. Story, you know, that all you have to do. Actually, the truth is you don't even have to click your heels, right? Because if you never left home, why do you have to do anything to get back there, right? You don't even have to click your heels, right? So when you're experiencing your true nature, you realize that this has always been true. I've never not been who I am. I've never not been who I am. And one of the things that happens when I get a sense of that, when I finally see it, you know, when I finally see it, because hearing about it's not good enough. You know, having conceptual understandings about your true nature isn't going to allow you to experience your true nature. It's just going to give you more shit to think about.